The Stranger at Grandview Cemetery. Logan West didn't expect anyone to be there that morning. The Grandview Cemetery, nestled just outside Portland, Oregon, was usually quiet this time of year, especially at sunrise. Wrapped in his dark overcoat, Logan made his way down the narrow gravel path, the air crisp with the scent of pine and dew. Every year, on this day, he came alone to visit his father's grave. It was a ritual, private and unspoken, just him and the past. But today was different. A figure knelt by the marble headstone before Logan could even see the name engraved on it. A boy, maybe 7 or 8, dressed in a red hoodie that hung too large on his small frame, his jeans torn at the knees. His head was bowed, one hand gently resting on the stone. Logan slowed his steps, brows knitting with confusion. "You've got the wrong grave, kid," Logan said, voice more puzzled than harsh. The boy didn't flinch. He turned slightly, his brown eyes wide and steady. "No, sir," he said softly. "This is my grandpa's grave." Logan's chest tightened. He stepped closer, heart suddenly pounding. The grave read, "Richard West, beloved father and visionary, 1942 to 2018. His father. No doubt about it. "I'm sorry," Logan said, trying to keep his voice calm. "What did you just say?" The boy stood slowly, brushing gravel off his knees. "My mom said this is where Grandpa is buried," he repeated. "She told me to come here if I ever wanted to feel close to him." Logan's mouth went dry. "What's your name?" "Micah," the boy answered. "Micah Lawson." Logan blinked. The last name didn't register, but something in the boy's eyes, sharp, intelligent, a little too observant, made his pulse skip. "Who's your mother?" he asked carefully. The boy hesitated. "Her name's Elise Lawson. She said you probably don't remember her." And just like that, the name slammed into Logan's chest like a truck. Elise, the woman he met one reckless summer in San Francisco. The one his father made sure never saw him again. Elise had been warm and wild, and everything Logan wasn't supposed to fall for. His father, Richard West, had called her a distraction, a liability, and Logan, too scared to lose his place in the family empire, had done the cowardly thing, let her go without a word. Now, here was a boy with her eyes and his cheekbones. The wind rustled through the trees, but Logan couldn't move. He was frozen, staring at this small boy who looked like a page torn from a past he'd tried to forget. "My mom said you didn't want us," Micah said, voice barely audible. "But I wanted to see him, even if he's gone." The words hit Logan like a gut punch. "I didn't know," Logan whispered, taking a shaky step back. "I didn't know she had a child." Micah shrugged like it didn't matter, like it was too late anyway. "She said you'd say that." The silence between them stretched too long. "How'd you get here?" Logan finally asked. "Took the bus. Mom doesn't know I came." Of course she didn't. Logan looked around, stunned. He was a billionaire, CEO of one of the top tech firms in the Pacific Northwest, and yet he stood there, powerless in front of a kid who just turned his world upside down. "Come on," Logan said quietly. "Let me take you home." Micah hesitated, then nodded. The ride back into the city was quiet. Logan kept stealing glances at Micah, now buckled in the passenger seat of his sleek black Range Rover, staring silently out the window. The more he looked, the more undeniable it became. The boy's nose, his jawline, even the way he furrowed his brows when he was deep in thought. It was like staring at a reflection through time. Micah finally pointed to a small apartment building on Hawthorne Street. 2 stories, faded yellow paint, a rusty mailbox with peeling letters. Lawson, apt to be. a world away from Logan's penthouse in the Pearl District. As they approached the door, Micah slowed. "Please don't yell," he muttered. "She didn't want this." "I won't," Logan promised. Before they could knock, the door yanked open. Elise stood there. Her auburn hair was shorter now, streaked with silver near the temples, but the fire in her eyes hadn't dulled one bit. She froze when she saw Logan. The air between them cracked with history. "What the hell are you doing here?" she asked, voice low and sharp. Logan opened his mouth, but nothing came out at first. Then, "We need to talk." She glanced at Micah, who stood with his head lowered, like he expected to be sent to his room. "Inside," she said, stepping aside stiffly. The apartment was small but clean. Family photos lined the hallway, pictures of Micah over the years, but none of Logan, none of him. "Micah, go to your room," she said. "Wait," Logan interrupted. "Please don't blame him. He found me at my dad's grave." Elisa's eyes burned. "I told you never to go there alone," she snapped at Micah before turning back to Logan. "And you, after 9 years, you just show up." "I didn't know," Logan said quickly. "I didn't know about him, about any of this." "That's a lie," she hissed. "It's not," he said, voice shaking. "I never saw anything. No calls, no letters." Her laugh was bitter and cold. "You really expect me to believe that?" "I sent you everything. I told you I was pregnant, I sent pictures. I begged you to just acknowledge him. You didn't even bother replying. Instead, I got one letter, typed, no warmth, signed with your name, telling me to stay away." Logan's blood ran cold. "What letter?" Elise stormed to a drawer and pulled out an old envelope. She tossed it on the table like it was poison. He opened it slowly. His company's letterhead, cold legal wording, a typed signature. "We acknowledge receipt of your claim. Mr. West has no interest in pursuing this matter." His name was printed at the bottom, but it wasn't his signature. He knew his own hand. This is forged," he said, stunned. "No kidding," Elise muttered, arms folded tight. Logan stared at her. "I swear to you, Elise, I never saw this. I would never have turned my back on you, or on him." She didn't reply, but the anger in her body was starting to shake loose, replaced by something else. Exhaustion, maybe, or pain. "My father must have done this," Logan whispered. Elise blinked. "What?" He nodded, his jaw tightening. "He had access. Lawyers, assistants. He said something once about cleaning up distractions. At the time, I thought he meant some tabloid rumor, but now," her shoulders dropped. "So, he erased us." Logan didn't answer. He didn't need to. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The hum of the refrigerator was the only sound in the room. Then Elise said quietly, "He cried every birthday. Sat at the window for hours. I told him his father was too busy to visit, that he was building rockets or something. It's the only way I knew to protect him from the truth." Logan's throat tightened. "I'm so sorry." "Sorry doesn't fix anything," she said, but she didn't push him out. Instead, she pointed toward the hallway. "He's in his room," she said. "If you really want to make this right, go say hello." Logan walked to the door and paused. He knocked gently. "Micah, come in." The boy was sitting cross-legged on the floor, a book about astronomy open in front of him. "You came back," Micah said quietly. Logan smiled. "Yeah, I had to." He sat beside him. "What are you reading?" Micah shrugged. "Just space stuff." "You like space?" "I want to work at NASA, build rockets, maybe even go to Mars someday." Logan looked at him, a strange warmth spreading through his chest. "That's a pretty big dream." Micah glanced sideways. Mom says dreams only matter if you work hard for them. She's right, Logan said, but sometimes people work so hard they forget what really matters. Micah looked up, his eyes curious. Logan took a breath. I don't want to forget any more. There was a long pause. Then Micah slowly slid the book toward him, pointing to a diagram. This one's a Falcon 9. It can go to space and come back. Logan smiled. Show me how it works. The days that followed felt like learning to walk again. Every afternoon, Logan parked his black SUV a block away from the Lawson apartment, Elise's rule, and made his way up the creaky stairs to Unit 2B. He never stayed long, just enough to check in, listen to Micah talk about his day, and maybe sit with him while he built Lego rockets on the floor. Micah was cautious at first, quiet, watching Logan like he was some experiment that might blow up if poked too hard. But he didn't hide in his room. He didn't push him away either. And for Logan, that was more than enough. Elise, however, stayed guarded. She'd watch from the kitchen, arms crossed, pretending to scroll through her phone, while her ears clearly stayed locked on every word between father and son. She didn't interrupt, but she didn't soften either. One night, Logan helped Micah finish a particularly complex rocket set. It took almost 2 hours and a few wrong pieces, but they got it standing. Okay, Logan said, proud. What's next? Micah gave him a look. That's not how it launches. Logan laughed. Oh, I see, I just built it. Now I have to study launch protocol too. Micah cracked a smile. Just a little, but Logan saw it and held on to it like gold. That night, after Micah went to bed, Logan lingered by the door. You're getting better at this, Elise said dryly. He glanced over. Parenting or Legos? She gave a small shrug. Both, barely. He smiled, but it didn't last long. I want to help, Elise, not just pass through. I want to be here, for real. She didn't reply right away, then prove it, because words don't mean much to me anymore. 2 days later, Elise got a call from Micah's school. There had been an incident. She showed up at the office in a rush and found Micah sitting outside the principal's door, hoodie pulled up, arms folded tight. What happened? She asked. He didn't answer. Inside, his science teacher, Ms. Taylor, looked uncomfortable. There was a bit of a disruption in class today. We were discussing career goals, and Micah shared that he wanted to work at NASA. Elise nodded. And, well, another student laughed. Micah got upset. There was shouting. Elise's jaw clenched. What exactly was said? Miss Taylor hesitated. I may have said that space engineering is extremely competitive, that it's good to dream big, but maybe have a realistic backup plan. You told a 10-year-old boy he shouldn't aim for NASA, Elise said, voice rising. I didn't say it like that. No, Elise snapped. But you didn't have to. That night, Elise told Logan everything. She expected him to explode. Instead, he went quiet, dead quiet. Then he stood, grabbed his phone, and started typing. Who are you calling? Elise asked, wary. A friend at NASA. You're serious? No one tells my son he isn't good enough. Not a damn soul. The next afternoon, Logan picked up Micah early from school. Where are we going? Micah asked, eyeing the suit Logan still hadn't changed out of. You'll see. An hour later, they pulled up to a wide glass building surrounded by towering white structures and engineers in blue jumpsuits. Micah's mouth dropped. Is this? NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab, Logan said with a grin. Remember that dream you told me about? Inside, they were greeted by a woman in a lab coat. You must be Micah, she said, smiling warmly. I'm Dr. Lena Brooks. I build engines that help us get to the moon. Micah's eyes lit up. He followed her like she was a superhero. She gave him a short tour. Not too technical, just enough to make his imagination catch fire. He asked dozens of questions. She answered every one. On the drive home, Micah was quiet at first, then whispered, "That was the best day ever." Logan smiled. "Still want to work there someday?" "I want it even more now." That night, back at the apartment, Micah paused at the door. "Hey, Dad?" Logan froze. Micah didn't seem to notice he'd said it. "Yeah?" Logan answered. "Thanks for today. I didn't think people like us got to go places like that." Logan knelt beside him. "We do, and if the world says otherwise, we prove it wrong." Micah nodded. "Okay." Inside, Elise watched them from the window. Micah's shoulders were straighter now, his eyes brighter. She met Logan's gaze as he walked in. "No one gets to clip his wings," Logan said quietly. And for the first time, Elise believed him. The knock came just after midnight. Elise sat up from the couch, startled, her book falling to the floor. The apartment was quiet, except for the humming fridge and the soft tick of the wall clock. Micah was asleep in his room. The knock came again, firmer this time. She opened the door a crack, heart pounding. Standing there was Franklin Parks, her landlord, short, smug, always chewing a toothpick, and behind him, 2 uniformed officers. One looked uncomfortable, the other didn't even blink. "Ms. Lawson," Franklin said, not bothering to hide the smirk, "we've had some complaints." Her stomach sank. What kind of complaints? Noise, disturbance, unregistered guests, people coming in and out of your unit at all hours, luxury car in the tenant lot. You know this isn't a valet service. "You called the police over a car?" Elise asked, stunned. "And the fact that you're behind 2 weeks on rent," he added smoothly. "You know, the building isn't zoned for that kind of attention." Elise's eyes narrowed. "What kind of attention?" "You know what I mean." She stepped back slowly and slammed the door in his face. The officers didn't object. They just turned and walked off like they'd done this before. Inside, Elise's hands trembled. She wanted to scream, throw something. But Micah was sleeping, so she didn't. She made tea in silence. The next morning, she told Logan everything. They sat in her car after dropping Micah off at school. Elise's jaw was tight as she spoke. Her voice clipped. "He's filing for eviction. Claims I violated the lease by letting you stay too often. Says my rent's late, which it isn't." Logan's face went hard. His fists clenched. "I'll handle it." "No," Elise snapped. "You won't." He looked at her, startled. "You don't get to waltz into his office with a $10,000 watch and fix this with a check," she said. "That's not how this works. Not in this neighborhood. Not with people like us. Elise, he's breaking the law. And we'll fight him. But legally, not with headlines, not with power moves, for Micah. You want to prove you've changed, then fight smart." Logan exhaled, long and slow. "All right, but I'm not sitting on the sidelines forever." That night, Logan didn't go home. He stayed on the couch watching movies with Micah, listening to the boy list off space trivia like bedtime stories. Elise watched from the hallway, heart full of fear, and something dangerously close to hope. 2 days later, Franklin escalated. He filed formal eviction papers and reported Elise to the city's tenant board as a habitual late payer, threatening her housing record. Elise didn't tell Logan. Instead, she stayed up all night researching legal aid, emailing every tenant rights group in Portland. Nothing came back until the next afternoon. Her phone rang, unknown number. "Hello? Ms. Lawson? My name is Sandra Lee. I'm with the Oregon Office of Housing Integrity. We got your email. I'd like to meet." Elise blinked. You saw it?" "I've seen Mr. Park's name before," Sandra said evenly. "You're not the first." They met 2 hours later. Sandra Lee was a black woman in her early 50s, dressed in a sharp gray pantsuit with zero patience for nonsense. She asked questions, took notes, photographed the unit, left with a copy of Elise's lease and a promise. I'll be back. And not alone. 2 days later, she returned, with a housing inspector, a legal advisor, and a local news crew. Franklin never saw it coming. Within hours, he was facing citations for fire code violations, discriminatory eviction procedures, and intimidation. Tenants who had once stayed silent now lined the hallway to speak. One by one, they told their stories: harassment, sudden rent hikes, ignored repairs. Elise stood outside the building, arms crossed. Logan pulled up beside her, sunglasses pushed back on his head, suit jacket slung casually over his shoulder. "You did this?" he asked. She glanced at him. "Number we did." He looked at her, truly looked, and something like awe flickered in his eyes. "I underestimated you." "Yeah," she said, lips twitching. "Don't do that again." That evening, the building buzzed with quiet celebration. Someone brought cupcakes. Another tenant offered Elise a thank you card and a month of free babysitting. Logan helped Micah set up his telescope again. The boy grinned as he adjusted the lens, already talking about how Saturn was brighter tonight. And Elise watched from the fire escape. For the first time, she didn't see Logan as the man who left, or the billionaire who showed up late. He was just a man, hands covered in frosting, shoulder to shoulder with their son, trying his best to love. And maybe, just maybe, he was learning how. The first time Elise collapsed, it was in the kitchen. She had been reaching for a mug when her legs gave out. Logan caught her just before she hit the floor. Her skin was clammy, her eyes unfocused. He called 911 while Micah slept in the next room, unaware. At the hospital, Logan sat in the cold, fluorescent waiting room, elbows on knees, hands clenched together so tightly his knuckles turned white. Time dragged like cement. A doctor finally stepped into the hallway, charts in hand. "Mr. West," he said quietly, "can we talk inside?" Elise was awake when Logan entered. She looked small in the hospital bed, smaller than he'd ever seen her. No makeup, no armor, just Elise, and something in her eyes told him she already knew. "Hey," she whispered hoarsely. Logan took her hand gently. "You scared the hell out of me." "I know," she said, trying to smile. "Not my best moment." Then the doctor came in and said the words that shattered the air. "Glioblastoma. Aggressive brain tumor. Advanced. Without treatment. A few months. With radiation and surgery, maybe a year." Elise asked the doctor about side effects. He didn't sugarcoat it. Nausea, seizures, memory loss, fatigue. She would need full-time care. Eventually, she wouldn't be able to walk on her own, or speak clearly. After the doctor left, Elise turned away from Logan, silent. "How long have you known?" he asked. She closed her eyes. "Since the headaches started, couple months." "And you didn't tell me?" "I didn't want to drag you into this," she whispered. "You just found Micah. I didn't want to trap you." Logan stood and paced toward the window. "That's not fair. You don't get to make that decision for me." She didn't respond. "I could have helped," he said, voice breaking. "I would have helped." "I know," she said finally. "But this isn't something you can fix with money or connections. You can't buy your way out of dying." He turned to her, pain in every line of his face. "Then let me stay, please. Let me be here, for you, for him." She looked up at him, eyes wet. "I'm scared, Logan." He sat beside her, pulled her into his arms. "Me too." Over the next few weeks, Elise declined faster than anyone expected. Micah noticed, of course. He wasn't a baby. He stopped asking questions when the answers got too quiet. Logan did everything he could, bought equipment, hired a nurse part-time, but Elise insisted on staying home. She said she wanted Micah's last memories of her to feel normal. One night, she sat Logan down in the living room, her breath shallow. "You need to call my brother," she said. "Chris, he lives in Chicago. We haven't spoken in years, but he's still family. You're not going anywhere yet," Logan said quickly. "Promise me, Logan, if something happens, you won't let Micah go into the system." Logan's eyes filled. "You don't even have to ask." She reached into a drawer and pulled out a sealed envelope. "It's my will," she said, "and this is for Micah, a letter for when I'm gone." Elise passed away on a gray morning in late November. The hospital room was quiet. Logan held her hand as her breathing slowed, then stopped. There were no last words, no dramatic confessions, just silence. Micah was in the waiting room with Chris when Logan came out. The boy looked up, eyes already wet. "She's gone, isn't she?" Logan knelt in front of him. "Yeah, buddy, she is." Micah clutched Logan's coat and didn't let go. The funeral was private, simple. Just a few close friends, Chris, Logan, and Micah. Logan stood by the photo of Elise, voice shaking. "She was the strongest person I ever met, fierce, kind. She gave me a son and never asked for a damn thing in return. She deserved more time. She deserved everything." Micah didn't say much, just held the envelope Elise left him. He didn't open it at the funeral. He said he wanted to wait until he was alone. That night, the apartment was hollow without her. Logan tucked Micah in, kissed his forehead, and sat outside the room for hours. He couldn't sleep, couldn't think. He read Elise's letter to Micah in the early morning hours. At the bottom, she had written one final line to Logan. "Tell him it's okay to forgive you. And tell yourself the same." Logan pressed the paper to his chest and wept. In the days that followed, Logan tried his best to be both mother and father. He cooked badly, did laundry, worse, and showed up to school events with an awkward smile and tear-stained eyes. The board at West Tech complained about his absences. He didn't care. His life wasn't in a corner office anymore. It was in science fair posters and lunchbox notes and brushing Micah's teeth while the boy recited space facts to the tune of lullabies. They visited Elise's grave every Sunday. Micah would leave a flower or a drawing. One time, he left a test paper he'd aced pressed against the marble. "She'd be proud," Logan said. Micah nodded. "She is." And as the wind whispered through the cemetery trees, Logan finally believed it. A year passed. The apartment looked different now, lived in. Photos lined the hallway, pictures of Micah at the science fair, a snapshot of him holding a telescope on the rooftop, and one of Logan and Micah at the Oregon coast, hair blown wild by the wind, both laughing like they hadn't in years. There were drawings on the fridge, rockets, stars, constellations scribbled in colored pencil. A dog named Rocket barked too much and shed on everything, but Micah loved him like a brother. And Logan? He wasn't the man who once built empires and ran boardrooms from a tower in the sky. He was a father now, one who burned toast, forgot soccer practice, and still struggled with folding fitted sheets. But every night, without fail, he tucked Micah into bed with a silly story, a forehead kiss, and the same whispered promise. "I'm here. Always." Some nights Micah would cry without warning. Other times he'd go quiet and retreat to his room with Elise's letter clutched in his hands. Logan never pried. He just sat outside the door, waiting, and eventually Micah would come back out, sometimes with questions, sometimes just to sit beside him in silence. Grief never left. It just settled. Softer. One Sunday afternoon, they visited Elise's grave like they always did. Micah brought a folded piece of paper, another letter. He pressed it gently against the headstone, weighed down with a small polished rock. "She'd like this one," he said. "It's a poem I wrote for language arts, about space and missing people." Logan stood beside him, hands in his coat pockets, letting the wind move through the silence. "You think she can still hear us?" Micah asked. "I do," Logan said, "and I think she's probably correcting my grammar from wherever she is." Micah smiled. They stood quietly for a while. Then Micah tugged on Logan's sleeve. "Can we get ice cream?" Logan chuckled. "Always." Back at home, the living room was warm with sunlight. Micah sprawled on the carpet, building a new Rocket model while Rocket the dog dozed with one paw over his nose. Logan watched from the couch, a soft smile on his face. Everything had changed in the past year. He'd stepped away from the CEO position, appointed a new board, moved his office into a co-working space 10 blocks from the apartment. No more all-nighters, no more press releases, just time, real, raw, unpredictable time with his son. And it was messy, it was beautiful. One evening, as they watched the stars from the rooftop, blankets wrapped around them, the telescope aimed high, Micah turned to him. "Do you think I'll ever go to space?" Logan looked at him, eyes reflecting the sky. "If you want it bad enough," he said, "you'll get there." Micah paused. "I don't know what I'd say. If I got to Mars—" Logan smiled. "I think you'd say something beautiful, like your mom." There was silence again, but not heavy this time, just full. Later that night, Micah handed Logan a page from Elise's old journal, the one she never got to finish. It was a letter. To both of them. "To my boys. If you're reading this, it means I didn't get to stay long. But know this. Love is not measured by time, but by presence. And Logan, if you're still there, thank you. Micah, my brightest star, keep dreaming, and never let anyone tell you the sky isn't yours." Logan read it twice. Then he folded it carefully, placed it back in the journal, and wrapped his arm around his son. The world outside their window stretched wide and unknown, but for the first time in a long time it didn't feel lonely. It felt possible. Life lesson. Real love is when you stay. Life doesn't always hand you second chances, but when it does, you have to be brave enough to take them. Logan West had everything the world could offer: money, power, success. But in one quiet moment at his father's grave, face to face with a boy he didn't know he had, he realized something that decades of success had made him forget. Family isn't something you hope stays intact while you stay distant. It's something you choose every single day to show up for. This story isn't just about a man rediscovering a lost son. It's about secrets buried in silence, about the courage it takes to face the past, and most of all, about the power of staying when it's easier to walk away. Elise didn't need saving. She wasn't looking for a hero. She needed someone who would stay when everything fell apart. Micah didn't need luxury or grand gestures. He just needed someone who saw him, who believed in his dreams, whether it was NASA or building Lego rockets in a living room filled with grief. And when Elise passed, Logan could have broken too, but he didn't. Because when you love someone truly, you don't disappear when they're gone. You keep loving them in how you live, how you raise their child, how you choose to stay kind day after day. The greatest lesson: love is not measured in words, it's measured in presence. You can say, "I'm sorry," 1,000 times, but sometimes it only takes once. One moment of staying, really staying, to begin to heal everything. In a world full of easy exits and quiet goodbyes, be the one who stays. be the reason someone dares to believe in love again.